Namaskar. Welcome to this third session of the fourth Adhyaya of Srimad Bhagavad Geeta. We start with invoking the gratitude of the Lord, with whose grace all this is possible, and the Guru Shishya Parampara, through which this knowledge has been protected and passed on for generations together. Paying my respects to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I have been able to learn these scriptures, and I am going to share my understanding of what I have learned with you. Let us start with a prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So before we go on to this present topic, just to reiterate or summarize the first three Adhyayas. In the first Adhyaya, Arjuna came to the battlefield and got a lot of moha asakti, which are all the ashuddhis in our mind, and these ashuddhis, the mood or the root cause of these are the ajnana. So this ajnana clouds our consciousness, does not allow us to think properly what is dharma, what is adharma, what I should do, what I should not do. And for this Arjuna becomes an eligible candidate for the Atma Jnana Uddesha, which Lord gives him in the second Adhyaya, and followed by the KarmaYoga and the Sthita Prajna Prakarana of the second Adhyaya, which we have already seen. And in the third Adhyaya, Shree Krishna talks in details about all the attitudes of KarmaYoga with which he wants Arjuna to do his karma. And then in the fourth Adhyaya, from KarmaYoga, he wants to take Arjuna to that jnana, to that knowledge, through which all the karmas can be destroyed, and karma sannyasa, jnana karma sannyasa. So the attitudes of Karma Yoga described in the third Adhyaya are basically the Ishwararpana Bhavana, surrender to the Lord, accepting Lord as an important part of our life, to do all our karmas in such a way that we please our Lord and as if it is the Lord's order, with being an instrument or nimitta matra bhavana, and doing it as our duty, as our several roles that have been given to us by the Lord, and doing them in the best possible way. And whenever we receive the karma phala, we accept the karma phala as a prasad or the offering of the Lord, and then we share it with everyone and accept it gracefully, whatever comes to us, rather than being obsessed or attached to these results of the fruits of the action. So the Adhyaya 4 is all about Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, renunciation of action, Karma Sannyasa through Jnana. And the first 18 shlokas Lord talks about the lineage of the Guru Parampara through which this Jnana or this knowledge passes, about his Sarvagna, how he knows all the Janma, Karma, and he talks about how his karma is such that it does not bind to him and does not have Karma Phala Spruha, and the person who knows him with this Tattvata, his own Janma, Karma, if we know him with Tattvata, how he is born. The Lord is born he's when he takes incarnation on his earth, by taking help of Maya, which is all under his own control. He is Swatma Maya. So he is, Swam Adhishtaya Atma Maya. Atma Maya means with his own Maya, which is under his control. Swam Adhishtaya. So this is how Ajopi, even though he is unborn, he is born on this earth, or it takes incarnation. After that, in the last talk, we talked about the Gnani Purush, the Gruhastha Gnani, what is his way of looking at the life, how he is not attached, he does everything as being a duty, is given a duty, does not get attached. And then he talks about the Nivritta Gnani, who has done Sarva Tyakta Parigraha, who has renounced everything in his life, how he behaves, that how he conducts his life. And in today's session, we are going to talk about these 12 Yagnas that Lord Shri Krishna talks about in this Adhyaya, the 4th. And what he is trying to tell us, the Tatparya or the summary, the crux of the message is that the Gnana Yagna is the Shreshth. All the Yagnas one can do in our lifetime, they can help us in our spiritual journey, but ultimately there is only one way we can obtain that final liberation from all these miseries, pain and everything, and that is through Gnana, that is through knowledge. And then finally, in the last 8 shlokas, it talks about all how to obtain this knowledge and what is this knowledge, Jnana ki Mahima. So we also started the last talk with this introduction, what is this Ajnani and the Gnani Purusha. Ajnani is the person who is bound by action, he doesn't understand his Atma Swarupa, he does all his actions with the Kartrutva or the Bhavana, which is the pride or the doership feeling, which goes behind all the actions of the Ajnani. Whereas in contrast, the wise person who is enlightened, who understands his Atma Swarupa, knows that his Atma Swarupa is a Karta Swarupa, and so whenever he does any karma, he is sitting in his Atma Swarupa, he does not get bound to the actions, to this karma or to the actions that he is performing. So for the Ajnani, to remain in pravrutti, in action, or being in inaction, both are karma. Whereas for the Gnani, even while he is in pravrutti or is in nivrutti, he is already sitting in his akarta atma swarupa, and that's why he is in akarma. He is not bound to the karma. So that is the difference that we need to understand between what is karma, akarma, what is Gnani, who is Ajnani, and what is the differences of meaning akarma for Ajnani and Gnani. Akarma for Ajnani means he is not in action, he is in actionlessness or in inaction. And akarma for Gnani is that even while he is in action, he is sitting in his akarta swarupa or atma swarupa, whereas a non-doership, this feeling. So that is how we have to understand. And now we will start with all these 12 yagnas which are important for our spiritual journey. In the Vedic tradition, these yagnas were considered to be quite important for the person, because most of the times as a householder, his life was full of karma. And yagna is also one type of karma, where there is a sacrificial fire, and then there is a, we have to give our offerings into the sacrificial fire. These offerings are called ahuti. So this was the yagna that was being done in the Vedic parampara. Today these are not done, but what Lord is trying to tell us, the crux is important. So with this yagna, what happens is that we understand what is the importance of giving away. So in yagna we have to offer, so we have to give away, we have to leave something. So this offering or this selfless giving is something tyaga, because tyaga chanti anantaram. And Lord Krishna talks in Bhagavad Gita that tyaga is the only way to get peace of mind. And how we develop that attitude in us is one yagna teaches us. And the second is the sanyama, the modulation. This Yagna Buddhi is all about balancing our different parts of our personality and modulating them and controlling this. So in the 18th to the 24th shloka, there is a description of the Gnani Purusha, whereas this 25th to 33 shloka, all this Gnana Stuti, the knowledge, and the 12 Yagnas are described here, which are all the sacrifices which can help us to relieve us of all our pains, miseries, adharma, ahankara and ajnana. So basically this is part of our spiritual journey which purifies us, and through this fire of knowledge we go through this purification to obtain the Atma Jnana. And finally Lord says that the Atma Jnana is the best. There is nothing better than the knowledge, which is the Sakshat Sadhana, which is the real or the only final, it's the last step to the moksha or the bhukti or the freedom. All the other sadhanas that we perform in our spiritual journey, like Karma Yoga, like Bhakti Yoga, like Dhyana, Japa, Tapa, Swadhyaya, all the Nama Smarana, everything, they are all complementary sadhana. The main sadhana is the Jnana, which can lead to the final awakening. So we start with the 24th shloka, and this is quite a famous shloka of which is recited by many people even before taking their food. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. So here, this is the Brahma Buddhi. So Brahma Buddhi means that one can see the oneness in all or everything. So in the entire universe, if somebody can develop this Brahma Buddhi, that is the Jnana, that is the ultimate knowledge. If we can develop this Brahma Yagna or Brahma Buddhi in everything, we can see the God or oneness, then that is the Brahma Buddhi. So let us see the meaning of what each word says. Brahmarpanam means the objects that you use to perform the yagna, like the chamasha, that wooden spoon, and then the dhruva or whatever we are using are all Brahma. So even though they are non-living things, but in our Shastra, even non-living things are having consciousness, but that consciousness is not manifested. So they are also Brahma. Brahma Havihi. Havihi are all the Havi or the offerings that are made, or the material that are offered into the Yagna. They are also Brahma. Brahmagno. The offering is made in the Agni. Agni is the fire. The sacrificial fire is also Brahma. Brahmahutam means the person who gives the offering, the Yajmana or the person or the wise man, Brahmana, who gives the offering, he is also Brahma. Brahmaiva tena gantavyam means whatever fruit is obtained after Yagna karma is also Brahma. So whatever we get, the fruits of the karma or the Yagna are also Brahma. And tena Brahma karma samadhina. So that person who does, this wise man who does all these actions as Yagna, he is also the Brahma. So everything is Brahma. So this is all Lord talks about the first Yagna, that is the Brahma Yagna, where one can try and develop a tendency to see Brahma Buddhi or oneness or God in everything that we do, whether it is living or non-living beings. So these are the two verses which are our Shastras tell us to recite before we take food. The first is the Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi, the shlok that we just understood. And the second is Annapurne Sadapurne Shankara Prana Vallabhe Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham Bhikshang Dehi Cha Parvati Namah Parvati Pataye Har Har Mahadev. So Annapurna Devi is the Parvati Devi, who is the Devi of the food, who is very dear to Lord Shankara Prana Vallabhe Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham. So you give us this offering or this food in such a way that it increases our knowledge and our vairagya, or our dispassion, our unattachment. And this kind of bhiksha you give us, Lord Devi Parvati, that will increase our jnana vairagya, does not increase our bhoga buddhi or bhoga vritti in our objects around in the world. Namah Parvati Pataye Har Har Mahadev. Hail Lord Mahadev and Parvati. So the second Yagna that Lord Krishna talks about here is the Daiva Yagna, Devata Yagna. Daiva meva pare yagnam yoginam paryupasate brahmagnava pare yagnam yagne naivo pajuhvati. So he talks about the Dev Yagna, Daiva Yagna. He says, apare yoginaha, some others who perform this Daiva Yagna to please the Devata by doing their worship or devotee, or they perform these Yagnas for particular Indra or Agni Devata, or whoever Yagna, they want to please those Devatas, so that these Devatas in turn will give them some wealth or some material possessions. For whatever reasons they want to please the Devatas. Apare Brahmagno Yagnena Yagnam Apujuvati. Some others who sacrifice their own Jiva Bhava into the fire of the Brahma Bhava. Brahma Bhava is the eternal consciousness. Jiva Bhava is our own limited consciousness. So there are some others who want to sacrifice their own individual consciousness into this eternal consciousness, and offering this individual limited ego into the eternal pure consciousness. So aham, to understand ourselves not as the limited but as a Brahmasmi, that we are the Brahma. So with this bhava, if somebody does the yagna, that is this kind of a climax of meditation. Meditation is the dhyana sadhana or the yoga sadhana. Devotion, which is the bhakti marga, and the knowledge, that is the jnana marga. So in all this, ultimate goal is to attain that oneness with everything, and to obtain that from our individual ego or our individual consciousness, we want to merge in the eternal consciousness. That is the idea. Shotra dinindriyanyanye sanyamagnishu jupati shabdadin vishayananya indriyagnishu jupati. So this is another, the third yagna that Shree Krishna talks about is Jnanendriya Sanyam. That is the sense control of our Jnanendriyas. So as you know, there are 5 Jnanendriyas. These are the Shotra, Tvaka, Chakshu, Rasana and Grahana. When Shotra is the hearing sense, which will take the Shabda, is the Vishaya for the Shotra Indriya. Similarly, Chakshu Indriya is for the Rupa, for the seeing, the watching, or to see the form. We use the Indriya, the Chakshu Indriya. So these 5 Indriyas, basically including the hearing ones, must be sacrificed in the fire of balance. There has to be balance between what we observe, what we hear. All this has to be done with some kind of an Indriya Sanyam. It essentially says that whenever the Indriyas go out and go into the object, we must use this Indriya with Sanyama. Whatever is needed, whatever is essential, yes, it can go, but otherwise we should get them back and put it in our Atma Swarupa. So that is the kind of balance. We have to start our spiritual journey with Indriya Sanyam, which is the most important Sanyama, because most of the times, because this Indriya and this Mana is so chanchala, so active, and it is so bahirmuka, it all wants to go out all the time and go and have some sense pleasures. So that is the main problem by which our mind does not become quiet and still. So to develop this stillness of this mind and this calmness of this mind, this peace of mind, this Indriya Sanyam is very essential. And only with this Sanyama, we can become from Swachanda. Swachanda means we are independent without understanding. We just want to do whatever we want to do. So that is not a real independence. So this, from Swachanda, we can become real, truly independent. Swatantra means that this Swatantrata is with the Indriya Sanyam. So when the Sanyam is there, then this independence is called Swatantriya. That is the true or the real independence. The independence we talk mean in today's world that we are independent, I can do whatever I want to without even thinking about it. That is not the true independence that our scriptures talk about. So for being happy, real happiness lies in the balance of our Indriya, our mind, our senses control. Only then we can be truly happy. So the next yagna it talks about is a Shabdan in Vishayan in Anya Indriyagnishu Jupati. This is the 4th yagna, the Vishaya Havana Rupa yagna. Means the renunciating the objects. The Vishaya, the Indriya goes into the Vishaya. So Vishaya also are kind of, the Shabdayan, Vishayan, Indriyagnishu Jupati means sacrifice of all the objects of the desire into the fire of the balance, the Indriya Rupa fire of the balance. So this is the Yagna Vishaya Havana. So these Vishaya are also sacrificed into the Indriya, and these Indriya are balanced. So basically, essentially it means in life we should balance our needs and our greeds. Basically, whenever we want to buy something or accumulate something, we must think, really, do we need it? Or is it just out of the greed, or just out of some advertisement, or just out of some competition or comparison we are buying it? Is it for the show off that we are buying it? Is it for really for our need or not? This is the kind of deep thinking that we must do. Balancing our accumulation needs, devices. Today we are living in a world of technology where we want to accumulate or buy a lot of new devices or technologies. So here we must have this kind of a viveka or understanding what is our need, and balancing our thoughts, words and actions. All these must be harmonious, which must be all balanced. So this is the 4th yagna, that is the Vishaya Havana Rupa yagna, about objects, how we want to renunciate. Even the food intake is kind of our object which we put in our body. So balance in a food intake is also an important part of this yagna. The 5th yagna that Lord talks about is the Atma Sanyama Yoga. Atma Sanyama Yagna. Sarvani Indriya Karmani Prana Karmani Chapare Atma Sanyama Yogagnao Jufhati Gnana Deepite. So this Atma Sanyama Yagna. Sorry, it's not Antakarana Sanyama, it's Atma Sanyama Yagna. Sarvani Indriya Karmani Prana Karmani Cha Apare. So some other people, they do this karma, all the sense organs and its activities, all our vrittis, our feelings, and all our actions of the prana, Gnana Dipite, which is illuminated by the light of knowledge, Atma Sanyama Yogagno Jufati, is to be sacrificed in the fire of the inner yoga of balance. So all our vrittis, all our activities, all our prana, all must be in the proper balance. That is important. So we must be constantly aware about what we are doing, what we are thinking, what we are... So, and that in the yoga path is called the Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So Chitta Vritti Nirodha means, we have to control or modulate our desires, our vritti, and then that is how we go from dharana to dhyana, and finally the final goal of samadhi in the yoga path of meditation. Dravya yagnas tapo yagnat yoga yagnas tatha pare swadhyaya gnana yagnascha yataya sanshita prataha. Here Lord talks about 5 more yagnas. So 5 yagnas is already talked about before this shloka, and in this he talks about 5 more yagnas. The first is the Dravya Yagna. He just makes a mention about Dravya Yagna, talks about any object. Sacrificing any object could be a yagna. So basically food also could be objects, money is also an object, so donation is also kind of a yagna. So all this kind of Dravya Yagna is talked about. Then he talks about the Tapa Yagna. So Tapa is basically making some simple niyama or rules for ourselves to discipline our mind. So this is by, maybe some people do fasting, some people do take a niyama or a discipline that I'll do 10 mala or 5 mala or whatever. So this tapa is also kind of a spiritual, it's a discipline which helps us to cultivate our mind and our indriya and just to make them more disciplined. Yoga Yagna Tatha Pare. Yoga Yagna is Ashtanga Yoga Sadhana. That is also a very important part of our spiritual journey. I'll come to that in the next slide. Swadhyaya Yagna. So Swadhyaya Yagna means reading our Swadhyaya, Adhyaya, and daily scriptures like Vedas, Upanishads or Geeta ji. So daily if you do this Swadhyaya Yagna, that is also an important part of our spiritual discipline. That is what Lord Krishna tells us. So we can take some kind of a niyama or a tapa that we will maybe recite at least Bhagavad Gita for at least 10 minutes every day before I go to sleep. So I'll read one Adhyaya and recite this, and most of the Adhyayas except the 2nd and the 18th Adhyaya are on an average about 40 Shlokas can be recited in about 10 minutes easily. Only the 2nd and the 18th Adhyaya, which are 72 Shlokas, take about 20 minutes to recite. So we can take a niyama or a rule, make a rule for ourselves that I will recite one Adhyaya before I go to sleep. That takes about 10 minutes to recite one Adhyaya, and this could be, with this we can complete one Bhagavad Gita recitation in about 18 to 20 days. So if this, we follow this rule discipline rigorously. So this kind of discipline, or we can make a discipline that we will listen to Geeta ji at least half an hour or 1 hour every day. Some kind of Geeta ji, some Shravana from some learned guru, we can listen to them. So that is the kind of Swadhyaya we can do. That is also like a Yagna. That is also a spiritual discipline. Gnana Yagna. Gnana Yagna means the Vedanta Gnana or the Upanishad Gnana. And this Yagna is by Shravana from the Guru. We listen to this Gnana. Manana, we think about it, we contemplate on this, whatever doubts we have, we clear them. And then Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana means we contemplate on this knowledge that we have acquired so that we can change our paradigm or our thinking. So Yataya. Yataya means who is serious for a better change in the life. Prayatna Purvak. The person who is making some efforts, is making some, putting in his efforts to make his life better. He is more aware, he is more balanced, he puts in efforts, he is not lazy. This is the person who is a Yataya. Sanshita Vrataha means who has firmly resolved to take charge of his life. That is a sanshita vrataha, who has a firm buddhi, takes a firm resolution, no, this is my goal, I want to do this, and he is firmly resolved in making changes in his life, is a sanshita vrataha. So yoga yagna, what God talks about is Ashtanga Yoga sadhana. Ashtanga Yoga is a very important sadhana. We can use it in our daily life even today. That consists of 8 sadhanas, which is called Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. So let's start with Yama. Yama basically means balance in our conduct, in our relationship with the world, with the outer world, when we interact. So that is Yama. And that is, the Niyama is the disciplining of the individual person. So Asana. Asana is, we all know what are yoga asana. They are all for the flexibility of the physical body. But it's not just that yoga asana work on the body, they work on the body-mind complex. Pranayama for breath control, and the breath is intricately connected with the mind. So the moment we start doing breath control, our mind also becomes more peaceful. Pratyahara. Pratyahara is Indriya Sanyam or Dhamma, control of the senses. Dharana is concentration of the mind, it's cultivating the mind for it to remain in one place. Dhyana, it's more deeper meditation where we use our buddhi to remain in one place with the thoughtlessness, and then achieving the samadhi, which is the goal, which is the sadhya, which is the oneness. Dharana, dhyana and samadhi, or dhyata, dhyana and adhyaya. Everybody becomes one. There is no differentiation. The person who is doing dhyana, the dhyana kriya itself and the adhyaya, the goal itself, everything merges into one. That becomes a samadhi avastha. So yama basically means yama niyama. The yama is 5 samajik naitikta, mulya or moral values: ahimsa, non-violence, satya, honesty, truth, asteya, never to steal anyone's possessions, brahmacharya, to be steadfast in the knowledge of Brahma and balance in all worldly happiness, aparigraha, means not to indulge in overconsumption or accumulation. So these are the simple 5 yama or 5 moral naitik or moral values that we should all imbibe in ourselves. Satya, ahimsa, chori na karvi, what Gandhiji already told us. Nav jo tu nava sangharvu, means don't accumulate what is not needed. So all these are the yamas or the 5 of the Ashtanga Yoga. Niyama is the 5 disciplines which will actually, my entire personality will become more harmonious or balanced. And these are the shaucha, the purity of the body and the mind. We should do everything that helps us to become more contented, happy. Santosha, tapa, that makes in a control of our own self. Swadhyaya, which is the daily introspection. Swadhyaya, that means reading of the scriptures, some kind of, and Ishvara pranidhana, surrender to the God with total faith. So these are the 5 niyama which will help me to discipline my own self. Apane juhvati pranam, prane panam tatha pare, prana panagati rudva, pranayama parayanaha. So in this shloka, Shri Krishna talks about the pranayama yagna. That is the 11th yagna that he talks about. Apane juhvati pranam means sacrifice the prana in the apana. So puraka means to inhale, breathe deeply inside. That is puraka. Rechaka means to exhale. So prane apanam tatha apare, while others sacrifice apana in the prana when they exhale. And prana gati rutva. So kumbhaka is to hold the breath after taking a deep inspiration. When we hold the breath, that is called kumbhaka. So this is to control the speed of our prana and the apana vayus. These are the energies which flow in and out of our body. So this is how pranayama helps us to, so these are the people who give priority to pranayama in their life. They are also doing this kind of a spiritual exercise. They are also doing the yagna. And if you do this with this yagna buddhi, then it will purify our body, mind, and it will help us to progress on our spiritual path. Apare niyatahara, pranan praneshu juhvati, sarve piyete yagna vido, yagna kshapita kalmashaha. So that means this Shree Krishna talks about the Prana Yagna, the 12th Yagna, which is the Prana Yagna. Apare. Apare means some others. Niyata Aharaha. Niyata Ahar lene wale means those who have control over their diet. Ahara means diet. So those who take balanced diet, those who take sattvic diet, those who have a, because the diet has an important relationship between our sadhana. So it is advisable that we take more of balance and sattvic ahara, and mita ahara means not too much. Our Ayurveda says that our stomach is divided into 4 parts, and 1/2 of this should be filled with food, the 1/4 with water, and 1/4 we should keep it empty for the gas, so that there is churning of the food when the digestion starts. So that is what. So we should not take ahara with the maximum capacity, but we should take it as much as we feel satisfied. Pranan praneshu chupati, giving sacrifice of our prana in all the other pranas. So there are several types of pranas. There are 5 pranas. There are sub pranas. There are many varieties of pranas. These are all the energy flows in the yoga sadhana. It is said that these are the energy fields in the body through which the energy flows in the body. Ete sarve api yagna vidaha. All the seekers who know the yagnas, yagna kshapita kalmashaha, means all those who know these yagnas, they practice these yagnas, and all their sins are destroyed. So Lord here tries to tell us that we should do some kind of yagna in our life. Yagna shishta mruta brujo yanti brahma samatanam nayam lokostya yagnasya utonyas kuru sattama. Means the person who performs yagnas attains their highest goal, because through these yagnas we, whatever there is a remaining, the fruit after the yagna is like a prasada, and if we accept this, it becomes like a amruta bhuja, like a nectar, and then with like a prasada we share with everyone, and then it helps us to grow, it helps us to tyaga bhavana, indriya sanyam, mana buddhi, sanyama, all this it helps us, sanatanam brahmayanti, and by this we purify our mind, and with this shuddhi of our mind we can go ahead and get the atma jnana that will lead to us to amaratva, that is a freedom. So this is the link, how we do our actions, our karma in our lifetime with this Yagna Buddhi. And the importance of Yagna is by practicing these Yagnas we achieve the purity of the mind, and we become eligible for obtaining the highest knowledge, that is the atma jnana in our life, which is our ultimate goal. Nayam lokosta ayagnasya utonya kuru sattama. So here Shri Krishna criticizes those who do not practice this kind of yagnas in their life. Kuru sattama, ho Arjuna, who is the best in the Kuru dynasty. Ayagnasya, those who do not practice this kind of, or any of these yagnas, ayagnasya, ayam loko nasti, they never attain any happiness or peace in this world. And kutah anya means even in other worlds, how can they achieve happiness? If they don't achieve any happiness here, even they go to another world, they will never achieve any happiness. He says, so human life here, the crux or the message is that it should be more for dharma rather than bhoga. So there are 2 ways we can live our life. One on the basis of our inner awakening or what our scriptures tell us, or on our sense pleasures that we all the bhogas that we undergo and enjoy. So that is what is the purpose of human life. We should all think about it, how we should live our life. Our actions in life should be more selfless rather than more selfish, because we should try to give away tyaga bhavana, yagna buddhi. All is to make our karma selfless or rather than selfish, because we are all used to working with our selfish motives, and Lord wants to take away from our selfish motives. So life, he says, is an opportunity for us. Human life is the biggest opportunity for us to do karma, and it's not just for the sense pleasures or sense enjoyments, but to create good karma, do good karmas, good deeds, and develop good karma phala that will help us in our onwards journey of our spiritual journey. So many yagnas, simple yagnas have been shown here. It tries to tell us that we must practice some of the yagnas. Evam bahuvidha yagna vitata brahmano mukhe karmajan vidditam sarvan evam gnatva vivokshase. Means that all these yagnas you perform with the karma buddhi. These many yagnas have been vividly described in the Vedas. Know that all these yagnas are accomplished by our karma, by our body-mind complex, by our body, words and thoughts. And evam gnatva vimokshase. By practicing these yagnas, finally you will achieve salvation, because having done this, you will purify our inner self and then go on to the Jnana Marga. So, finally, the message or the crux of all these Yagna Buddhi is Shreyan Dravya Maya Yagna Gnana Yagna Parantapa Sarva Karma Akhilam Partha Gnane Parisamapyate. Here he says that the Gnana Yagna is the Shreshta. The knowledge Yagna is the best Yagna. Knowledge Yagna is the Shravana, Manana and the Nididhyasana. By the reading the scriptures from the Guru Mukha, that is the best. Then Manana, thinking about it, and then Nididhyasana. But this is only possible when we have purified our mind, intellect and our body. Purification has happened over the with the Antakarana Shuddhi. He says, "Oh Parantapa, oh Arjuna." Parantapa means one who has so much of might that his enemies, they are defeated. They burn to death. Parantapa. But the real enemies are not outside us. In our life, the real enemies, we feel that the real competition is outside, but that is not the true thing. The real enemies are all our Shad Ripu, those who are inside us, those who don't let us go forward, progress on our journey onwards, don't allow us to attain the highest that we can attain in this human lifetime, what is our capability or our potential. Those Shad Ripu are our biggest enemies. So Lord here says earlier, whatever yagnas are described, the 12 yagnas including the Dravya Yagna, but out of all this, the Jnana Yagna, the knowledge Yagna is the best out of all yagna. This is worth achieving, because this Jnana is the ultimate last step to moksha or mukti or freedom. It is the sakshat sadhana to achieve this, and all the other sadhanas are in the spiritual practice are all sahayak sadhanas, including Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Tapa, Swadhyaya, all the other sadhanas that we do perform for, Ashtanga Yoga, everything, Pranayama, all these are our sahayak or complementary sadhanas which help us to purify our mind. But ultimately, the purpose of all this, when we want to go to the next floor, we have to climb all the steps. But finally, it's a final step which will take us to our destination. But to reach that final step, we have to climb all the steps. We can't just go directly to the final step. Similarly, we have to start step by step, purifying ourselves, purifying our mind, purifying our intellect, antakarana. We have to purify all the durgunas, all the shadavipus we have to remove, and then get good sadgunas we have to imbibe. And finally then, after purification, we have to go towards Atmajnana. So this is the journey of our spiritual journey. Sarva karma khilab partha jnane parisamapyate. All the karmas finally end in knowledge. And this Atmajnana is such that this will, samapta. Karma, all the karma comes to an end when we obtain this ultimate knowledge. Because all the karmas are being noted in our account. This is like there is a balance, or the karma, there is an account in which all this karma, and it said that the nature of the Lord is the karmadhyaksha. He keeps note of all this, and how these huge supercomputers are working, we don't know. But everything is being noted. And our pride, aham karomi, this kartrutva, binds us to all these karmas. And this is the understanding. All the karmas eventually give karma phala, through which we get attached again by our raga, dvesha, by our sanskara, by our liking, our dislikes. All this attach this, and they create our new sanskaras. Then we have moha, we have desires, kamana, we want more karma, because this we like, we want to do it more and more. Something we dislike, we don't want it. Somebody comes in the way, then there is a krodha. So all these shadharipus will come. And we have to endure all this karma phala. In the next life, or in the future of this life, we will have to endure all this karma phala. And that's why we should be aware. Whatever we do, whatever karma we do, we should be aware about it. What kind of karma phala it will produce, what I'll have to endure in the future. I should be doing all my karmas with this awareness and do them responsibility. And finally, knowledge releases us from all the types of karma. What is said here, all the different types of karmas in the Shastra are said sanchit karma, which are already there, which are like so many arrows are already there in my quiver. So that sanchit karma is already there of all my past, that's my baggage, of all my past karmas and my past, this life also, a lot of things I have done, that is my sanchita karma. Agami karma is something that is, that is done by a wise person after he gets his knowledge. But prarabdha karma is something that has already started giving the fruits of the action. Jo pag gaye, jo fruits have already started becoming ripe, they have already given me the karma phala. That's like an arrow which is in the air. So it's already shot, it's already going to give some kind of a result. Already that is a prarabdha karma. And the one which is on the bow, that arrow is called the kriyamana karma, which is the one that I am doing now. So I have to be aware of what I am doing, and these karmas, all these kinds of karmas, we have to be very, very aware. But finally, all these karmas, the sanchita, agami, prarabdha, kriyamana, and all these karmas, of course, agami karma doesn't get destroyed because this is done after the awakening or the enlightenment. But all the karmas get destroyed in the fire of knowledge. And our Guruji tells us that whenever there is a prisoner, a person who is in the prison, who is in the jail, his file is going on in the court of law. But when that person dies, his file gets closed. That case there is no case now against him because that person is already dead. Similarly, when a person who was being bounded with his karma phala all the time, when he gets the jnana, he now knows that he is not that same person. He is the Atma Swarupa, he is a different person. He is a self, and he doesn't get bounded to his karma. His file is closed. All his karma are already vanished. They are destroyed in this fire of the knowledge. That is the power of this knowledge, and it can destroy all. And that gnani yagna, that knowledge is the best, that is worth having. That is the ultimate goal of our life, the human existence. That is what Lord Krishna tells us in this Bhagavad Gita. So with this, we come to the end. Just a word about our Shadaripu, our real enemies which are inside, Kamana, desires. These arise because of our incompleteness, our proper understanding of ourself, and that's why all these Kamana and desires come up in our mind. When these are not get fulfilled, that it turns into Krodha. Already we talked about what this Dhyayato Vishayan Punsa, the Patan ki Siri, all these can lead to Kamana, Krodha. All these very vividly described in second and the third Adhyaya. Second Adhyaya, it is very well described in the Sthita Prajna Prakarana. All these Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha, Sammohat, Smruti Vibramaha, Smruti Prancha, Buddhinasha. Lobha is the greed. So whenever we get something, when there is Kamana and this object comes to us, then we start having more and more greed to get more and more because we like it. Raga, Dvesha, how they work. And then there is a moha, attachment, that this should remain with me. It should not go away anywhere. This person, this thing, this object should always be with me. That is a moha or the attachment. And then we are all, whenever we are in our karma, in our actions, we all have our pride, our ego. I have done this, I can do this. And this pride also is one of the reasons why we develop matsarya or jealousy for others, which is primarily because of our comparison and our competition with the world. And that's what helps. All these are our biggest enemies because they don't. Already Lord has said previously that these are your real enemies, and we must be aware that these enemies we have to control by the Indriya Sanyama, Manas Sanyama, and all this is the real subject matter of Gita Ji, where the real understanding of our life comes through Lord Himself, Lord Krishna. So to summarize the 12 Yagnas that have been talked about in this session, the Brahma Yagna, the Daiva Yagna, the Jnanendriya Sanyama, Vishaya Havana Rupa Yagna, Atma Sanyama Yoga Yagna, Dravya Yagna, Tapa Yagna, Yoga Yagna, the Ashtanga Yoga we talked about, Swadhyaya Yagna, daily scriptures, reading of Gita Ji, daily recitation, 10 minutes daily recitation and half an hour at least minimum daily listening to Gita Ji or reading about Gita Ji, preferably 1 hour every day if it is possible for somebody, then that will be a real Swadhyaya Yagna. Jnana Yagna, which is the best, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, Pranayama Yagna and Prana Yagna. So these are the 12 Yagnas that Lord says so many things we can do in our life to improve ourselves, to make ourselves a better person, to go on this spiritual journey. to understand what Lord is trying to say, what we are seeing in the world, and what Lord is saying, what is His vision. His vision is very different from our vision. So we try to understand what is His vision. So with this we come to the end of the session. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.